in the election. So I think he's very deliberately saying, right, you've had it your own way with me for 8 years. This time, we're going to level the playing field. But he's also, if I was working at NBC or CBS or one of these networks or ABC who had a big payout recently, I'd be like, okay, we've got to be more fair-minded here.
Welcome back, everybody. Thanks for visiting the channel. Today we are on Piers Morgan, or actually we're on Bill O'Reilly's channel, and he is talking with Piers Morgan for a change. They're talking about Donald Trump's second term in office and Trump's war with the media. As we all know, the leftist liberal media in America is just shameless in their hatred of Trump. They've been after him for 8 years. They've been ever since day one of his first term, even before that during his campaign. They could not stand him. It was obvious. It was war, and Trump persevered through his first term. And in his second term, he is on fire. I think it's fair to say the American public, just ordinary Americans, maybe even ordinary Europeans here where I live in Europe, they've seen through the lies of the mainstream media. And while they might not necessarily believe everything Trump says, they are very, if you're like me, and I think many ordinary people are, we're all very, very skeptical about what the mainstream media says. So let's get into this chat between Bill O'Reilly and Piers Morgan about Trump and his war with the media.
How do they see Donald Trump, particularly our strongest ally, Great Britain? So joining us now from London, England, where I lived for a year until they deported me for being obnoxious, is Piers Morgan. You know him. I don't have to go through the resume. But you can check him out on YouTube. His program is called Piers Morgan Uncensored. I don't know if you have ever been censored from the time you're 2, but to reinforce that is good. So, number one, you would agree with me that Donald Trump's taking revenge on the American media, correct?
Yeah, no question. But I also think that it's been entirely predictable given the way that the mainstream media in America has behaved in such an overtly partisan manner against him for 8 years. And I've been criticizing them for 8 years for doing it, pointing out that it's not the job of the media to take sides. I mean, some of them may be unashamedly, partisan, fine, then show your colors. It's the more insidious, secret partisan behavior of very liberal-dominated newsrooms working at the supposedly impartial networks who've waged a kind of systematic activist campaign against Trump. And obviously, now he's got the chance, he's going to have some fun with them. But I would tell them to look at themselves very hard in the mirror and say, have we really not brought this on ourselves?
Well, they're not going to do that. Why would they do that? I mean, the culture is and always has been in the national news arena left. I work for CBS News. I work for ABC News. I mean, I know what the deal is. Now, it's crazy since Trump got into politics. Then all of the barriers left. And it was justified by a New York Times columnist who said, look, this guy's a danger to the union, so we're not going to have any rules anymore. We're going to try to destroy him. And once the New York Times put that posture out, then they all followed, and they thought that they had him. They thought that Donald Trump was done. And he rose like Dracula, and now he's going after them. Do you feel that is beneath the President of the United States to wreak that kind of vengeance?
Well, I think Donald Trump is always going to do what Donald Trump wants to do. And people who've tried to get involved in changing his mind about exacting retribution in this kind of manner normally discover it's a bit pointless. He's nearly 80 years old. He's a leopard who won't change his spots when it comes to that kind of thing. If you read his book, The Art of the Deal, then it's all in there. Somebody punches you, punch them 10 times harder back is his mantra, and always has been for 50 years. So he's not going to change now. I do think it's probably a little bit of a waste of time for the President of the United States, but he's got so many more important things to worry about than going after the media. But what he's really doing, Bill, I think, is he's putting them back in their box. And he's also, I think, trying to focus their minds on, why don't you just try in this term of office, unlike the first term, being a little bit more fair-minded, having some more conservative voices on your network, actually not making them pariahs, not directing your audience to feel that everything that Donald Trump does is evil personified. And actually, a lot of it might be quite good, which is why he's just won such a thumping win in the elections.
I don't know about you, but frankly, yes. I mean, Bill O'Reilly's question was interesting. You know, shouldn't it be beneath the president to go after the media in such a flagrant fashion? Frankly, yes. Under normal circumstances, in a sane, healthy society, sane, healthy, moral society, high trust society. But that's not what we're living in these days. In modern day, current day America, current day Western Europe, society has been so atomized, so destroyed by massive migration for decades, that the social cohesion is breaking down. And so, you know, when you have somebody in charge, well, under those circumstances, you need a junkyard dog. And that's exactly what Donald Trump is. And he is just baring his teeth. Not just baring his teeth, he's biting and biting hard. So yeah, I say he should go after the media. He should be vicious. He should be open about it.
So I think he's very deliberately saying, right, you've had it your own way with me for 8 years. This time, we're going to level the playing field. But he's also, you know, if I was working at NBC or CBS or one of his networks or ABC, who had a big payout recently, I'd be like, okay, we've got to be more fair-minded here. It's simply not good enough. Not good enough. Well, I'm not so sure because it's costing them a lot of money. Money talks,
it's costing them a lot of money,
as anything else.
Right. I mean, Disney and everybody else, but they're never going to do it. Now, when I was in London for the New York Jet-Minnesota Viking game in October, I paid close attention to the media in Great Britain, and a lot of them want to interview me. I just did a big thing in Paris. I am stunned by the lack of knowledge that British journalists have about our system in America. They don't understand how it works. They don't know.
Yeah, I agree. Listen, I've had the pleasure and honor of working and living in America for 20 years now. So I have a much greater knowledge, I would say, than 98% of British journalists. And they've been very lazy, particularly, I think, in their treatment of Trump. You know, just taking a kind of very easy, simplistic narrative that everything he does is awful. And that, of course, the Democrats are better people and a better party. And, of course, they're going to keep winning. And that just hasn't been borne out by events. So
but the British people buy it.
A bit meek and mild now.
The British people are buying it. I mean, you got the BBC lined up to do exactly what the NBC News is doing here. The BBC does over there, right?
Yeah, but I would say that the difference now compared to 2016, for example, or indeed Trump's whole first term, was that I would say the vast majority of people in Britain had a pretty negative view of Trump in his first term, driven largely by the media from America and everyone taking their lead from that. What is different this time is there's no doubt, from my own anecdotal experience, right across Britain, from north to south, east to west, there is a massively better, more positive feeling towards Trump from the public, from the people.
Why?
Not necessarily the media, but because I think they've looked at it. I'll tell you why. Because we have a left-wing socialist government now in this country. Everybody was sick and tired of the Conservatives. They were no good, the Conservative governments, for 15 years. Honestly, a rat bag of very poor, incompetent leaders in the main. And inevitably, they got eventually kicked out of office. But what happened next was not like in '97, when Tony Blair came in and did a lot of pretty good things, actually, and was very, very popular. What happened here was that clearly, very quickly became clear to people that the Labour Party had not had any great plan for improving the country. Their whole stance was going to be the Conservative Party were terrible. They've driven the country into the ground. We're in terrible shape. And by the way, things are going to get worse. And their first actions were to punish financially pensioners and then to punish financially the farmers.
So
and
the
public
lefties
went, hang on, this is ridiculous.
Right. So the lefties are not succeeding in Great Britain. So by transferal, Trump looks a little bit better across the pond. Would I have it?
Yeah.
All right.
That's it.
So there we have it. I think Piers Morgan hits the nail on the head, and frankly, you know, at this point, I don't think Trump really cares. He's like, I think the hatred of the media, the ongoing hatred of the leftists, the media, the European establishment, God knows, here in Europe where I live, all the politicians hate Trump. You know, there's barely any traditionalist party here at all, or right-wing party. And they all hate him. And I think he's just feeding on that. He's taking that energy and just turning it and going scorched earth. And I hope he does. He needs to go scorched earth on the bloated federal government. He needs to go scorched earth on the lying media. He needs to go scorched earth against the European Union, as he's already doing, just telling Europe to get stuffed. Basically, if they want to defend Ukraine, they can do it on their own dime. I think that's the right thing to do. America's got bigger problems, got bigger fish to fry. So let me know what you think of all that in the comments. I think I'll leave it off there. And don't forget to like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. Almost at 6,000 subscribers now, if I'm not mistaken. Getting very close. I really appreciate everyone. And I will see you in the next video.